Incredible moment. Millionaire discovers a humble cleaner's amazing love for her sick mom. In the bustling heart of Maplewood, Joe stood amidst the chaos of renovations at the local hospital, surrounded by the clang of tools and the shuffle of busy workers. He was a self-made millionaire, but it all felt hollow, like a sparkling facade hiding an empty shell. As he oversaw the final touches on the bright new wing, his eyes drifted not to the walls or the equipment, but to Maria. She was there, scrubbing the floors, her movements fluid yet heavy with the weight of unspoken stories. Maria was a cleaner, but she was more than that. Beneath her tired exterior lay warmth and resilience, a fierce love that ignited when she spoke of her sick mother. As she wiped the floors, she made jokes with patience, lighting up the dull hospital day while hiding her own burdens. Joe watched, intrigued. He saw genuine joy, something he yearned for but couldn't grasp. Each time he caught a glimpse of her smile, an inexplicable tug pulled at his heart. "Did you hear about Maria?" a nurse whispered to a colleague, her voice a mix of admiration and concern. Joe tuned in, curious as the nurse continued. "She's juggling her mother's illness and taking care of the bills. Such a heart she has, but it's wearing her down." Joe's chest tightened. Suddenly, the luxurious car he drove felt excessive and cold compared to the warmth of Maria's humble world. It was hard to fathom someone like him would even connect with someone like her. Yet every encounter made the contrast starker. Their conversations, often over coffee in the break room, revealed the stark reality of life. Maria talked about her mother's mounting medical bills, her dreams about finishing school, and how every penny mattered. Her strength was beautiful, but it broke him to see how fragile it was. Before we continue, I need to let you know about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system, and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, hit that bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can drop a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, let me know in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. Just as their friendship blossomed, tragedy struck. Maria's mother took a sudden turn for the worse. Joe watched in helpless despair as she broke down. The walls he once hid behind began to close in. He felt suffocated by the weight of his own privilege. How could he continue in his life of ease when behind Maria's weary smile was the relentless storm of suffering? He found himself at a crossroads, grappling with the question that echoed in his mind. What did it truly mean to succeed? His world of power and wealth felt trivial compared to the bond of love and sacrifice Maria put forth every single day. Could he step away from the gilded life he'd built and embrace the reality of uncertainty and struggle that came with her world? He realized that in her presence, he felt both terrified and alive. The connection they shared sparked something deep within him, a longing to truly understand life beyond the gleam of affluence. Would he find the courage to leap into uncharted waters of love and sacrifice? Would he dare to redefine his existence? The tension rose inexorably, leaving both Joe and the audience on edge, yearning to know where their paths would lead. Joe stood outside the hospital, the crisp air biting at his skin, the weight of his decision looming larger than ever. He looked up at the glass facade that sparkled in the sunlight, a stark reminder of the life he had built, a life of luxury and status. But inside, his heart thudded with a different rhythm, one that resonated with Maria's inherent strength and the struggles she faced daily. As he turned to leave, a sudden surge of determination surged through him. No more standing on the sidelines, watching from a distance. It was time to act. He needed to reach out, to show Maria that she wasn't alone in this fight. Mustering his courage, he stepped back inside the hospital. He found Maria in her usual spot, gently tending to the floors, her expression a mixture of concentration and heaviness. She looked up, startled as he approached. "Hey, Maria," he said, his voice soft and steady. "Joe," she replied, her surprise quickly morphing into her familiar warmth. But today, there was something else in her eyes, a flicker of weariness. "What's up? I just wanted to check on you," he said, his pulse quickening. "I heard about your mom. I'm so sorry." Her eyes glistened, and for a moment, silence hung heavily between them. "Thanks, Joe. It's hard, really hard. I feel like I'm losing her every day." His heart ached for her. I can't imagine what you're going through, but I want to help. Is there anything I can do? Maria looked at him, a mix of hope and skepticism warring in her gaze. I don't know if you can understand, the bills are piling up, and it feels so hopeless sometimes. I may not understand everything, Joe admitted, feeling a surge of vulnerability, but I want to try. Can we talk? Maybe figure something out together? She hesitated, just for a moment, then finally nodded. Okay, let us talk. They found a quiet corner of the cafeteria, the usual bustling chaos of the hospital fading into a muted background. Maria sat across from him, her hands clasped tightly, as if afraid of letting go. It's just everything feels so out of control. Some days, I can barely keep it together. Tears threatened to spill from her eyes, and Joe felt his heart breaking. You're doing everything you can, Maria. That's what matters. He leaned in, his voice low. I want you to know that caring for your mom is a huge deal. You are not alone in this. At his words, he saw the tiniest sliver of hope spark in her gaze. But how can you help? You don't even know me. I want to know you, he replied earnestly. Let me in. Let me help. I know people. I can speak to doctors, look at the hospital bills, maybe set up a fundraiser, whatever it takes. Her breath hitched at the thought. You would really do that for me? Of course. You deserve support, not to feel like you're doing this all by yourself. Maria's expression softened, but the worry still lingered. But what if it doesn't work? What if she doesn't get better? That's the reality we face, isn't it? Joe said softly. But we can face it together. There's strength in that, I promise. As hope tethered them together, Maria leaned forward, her eyes scanning his face for assurance. Just as their connection began to deepen, the tension thickened with unanswered questions swirling in the atmosphere. Joe, she whispered, but he interrupted, his mind racing with possibilities. Before you decide, let us not think too far ahead. Let us take this one step at a time, whatever that looks like. The moment hung in the air, charged with anticipation. Joe's heart raced not with fear, but with a flicker of hope ignited by her presence. Would she allow him to take that step with her? As her eyes searched his, he realized this was just the beginning of something profound. But suddenly, the ringing of Maria's phone broke through their moment, a stark reminder of the outer world pressing in on them. She glanced down, and for a brief second, the color drained from her face. It's the hospital, she said, panic creeping in. I have to take this. As she answered, the knot in Joe's stomach tightened. What would this call mean for both of them? Would it unravel the fragile connection they started to weave, or deepen it? He waited anxiously, his heart pounding, questioning what lay ahead. Joe's breath quickened as he watched Maria turn away, her expression shifting to one of deep concentration. The phone pressed to her ear, and he strained to catch snippets of her conversation, but all he could hear was her quiet voice mingling with the sterile sounds of the cafeteria. He could see the tension radiating from her small frame, a stark contrast to the warmth she had shown him just moments ago. As she spoke, a wave of uncertainty washed over Joe. This was the kind of moment that would either pull them closer or send them spiraling apart. He leaned back in his chair, trying to give her space, but the knots in his stomach twisted tighter. He felt so helpless, sitting there, as if the very walls of the hospital were closing in on him. After what felt like an eternity, Maria finally hung up the phone. She looked like a storm had passed through her, confusion clouding her eyes. But as she met his gaze, something hardened within her. I need to go. They want me to come now. Go. Joe echoed. What do you mean? Is everything okay? It's my mom. They're moving her to a different unit. I think it's serious. Her voice trembled, but she shook it off, desperately trying to maintain her composure. I'll come with you, Joe said, rising from his seat. Maria's eyes widened, digging her nails into her palms. No, I can't. You don't have to. This is my fight. This is your fight, he echoed, but it doesn't mean you have to fight alone. The silence that followed was heavy, as both of them stood at an emotional crossroads. Finally, with a tight breath, Maria whispered, Why do you care so much? Because you matter, Joe replied, his certainty sharpening. And you don't have to face this alone. Let me in, Maria. Let me help. She hesitated, warring with herself, a battle that played out in the tension of her clenched fists. Finally, she took a shaky step forward. Okay, but it's really complicated. Complicated as what I do, Joe said softly, reaching out for her hand. "Let us put one foot in front of the other together." With a nod, she took his hand, her grip trembling yet determined. As they wound their way through the bustling halls, Joe's heart raced not just from anxiety, but anticipation. Guiding her through the labyrinth of medical staff and equipment felt like they were forging a new path together, one filled with uncertainty, but also deepening connection. When they reached the unit, the sterile smell of antiseptic washed over them, along with a sense of dread that hung thick in the air. Maria's face paled, the familiar determination slipping as vulnerability crept in. She turned to Joe, a fear in her eyes that cut deeper than any hospital hallway. "Joe, what if this is it? What if I lose her?" He stepped closer, framing her face with both hands. "I can't promise you anything, but I can promise that no matter what happens, you won't face it alone. I'm right here with you." As a single tear escaped her eye, she nodded, the faintest sliver of hope flickering between them. They pushed open the door to her mother's room, the reality of the situation crashing over them like a wave. The sight of her frail mother, breathing softly in the hospital bed, struck them both with a raw intensity. Maria's composure shattered. She moved to her mother's side, gripping her hand tightly. As Joe stood a step back, his heart ached for both of them. The palpable love in the room weighed against the uncertainty of their future. Just then, a doctor walked in, clipboard in hand. Joe's heart dropped. "Maria," he said softly, "we need to talk about some options." The room thickened with tension, and Joe held his breath, knowing the next moments could change everything. Would they face heart-wrenching news, or would they find a glimmer of hope? What options lay ahead for Maria, and for the bond they were beginning to forge in the face of this storm? Maria squeezed her mother's hand, a lifeline in a sea of uncertainty. The doctor's presence felt heavy, like a gathering storm. Joe could see the weight of his words before they even emerged, the way he shifted his stance and adjusted his glasses. She didn't need to ask him to speak. She could feel time stalling, the gravity of the moment consuming them all. "Maria," he began, his voice steady yet sympathetic, "your mother's condition has worsened. We need to consider our next steps carefully." He glanced at the monitors, soft beeping punctuating the eerie quiet. Joe could feel Maria's breath hitch, her entire being straining against the reality laid before them. "What do you mean?" Maria's voice cracked, raw and desperate. "What steps?" The doctor cleared his throat. "We have a few options." He unfurled a crumpled sheet from the clipboard, the lines of text blurring slightly in Joe's vision. "We can continue with aggressive treatments, but given her current state, it's important to understand the potential outcomes. There are also palliative care options to consider." The words hung like lead in the air. Joe wanted to reach across the space that separated them, to actually pull her towards him, hold her tight. But he didn't. Maria's face fell into shadow, crumpling in the face of the doctor's words. "I just want my mom to be okay," she whispered. I can't lose her." The tears flowed freely now, her walls collapsing as she faced the reality. "Maria," Joe said gently, stepping closer to her, "whatever choice you make, you have to do what feels right for you and your mom. You don't have to make this alone." Her gaze darted from her mother to the doctor, the weight of impossible decisions etched across her features. Joe didn't have the answers or the magic words to take away the pain. He just knew he had to be there, anchored beside her in this storm. The doctor continued, his voice barely audible now, filling the air with medical jargon and statistics Joe didn't focus on. His attention was on Maria, her quiet sobs cutting through the sterile atmosphere. She looked so small, bearing a burden that felt too big. "Can we have a moment?" Maria finally asked the doctor, a spark of strength igniting within her. As he nodded and stepped outside, the door click echoed like a sigh of relief. As soon as they were alone, Maria turned to Joe, her eyes searching his. "What do I do? What if I have to decide? What if it's up to me?" "Then you decide what your heart tells you," Joe said, fear bubbling beneath his surface. "You know your mom. You know what she want. Think about her. Think about your bond." A flicker of determination returned to Maria's eyes. "I want her to be comfortable," she whispered. "That matters more than anything." They shared a moment. The world around them faded, and in that brief silence, it was just the two of them connected by something deeper than the chaos swirling outside. It was love, raw and powerful, and a hope that perhaps this would forge something unbreakable between them. A new voice interrupted their intimate moment. The door swung open, revealing her mom's nurse with a compassionate smile. "Maria, we're going to take good care of your mom. We're here for you both." Maria nodded, taking a breath as if trying to piece herself back together. She looked over at Joe, a soft smile breaking through her despair. "Thank you," she said, her voice steadier. But before Joe could respond, an unexpected crash reverberated down the hallway, a sound so jarring it pulled at their attention. Maria's face paled, uncertainty flickering back into her eyes. Joe's mind raced. What had just happened? They had only just begun to piece together their next steps, and now? What was that? Maria asked, her grip on his hand tightening again. "I don't know," Joe answered, a seed of worry planting itself deep in his gut. They exchanged glances as the commotion outside grew louder. This day was far from over, and somehow, the fight was just beginning. Would they face uncertainty ahead, or could this unravel even more? Maria felt her heart rate quicken as the noise grew louder, a chaotic jangle in the otherwise sterile air. A group of nurses rushed past the open door, their expressions charged with urgency. Confusion and fear swirled like a storm cloud in her mind. "Are we safe here?" she whispered, looking back at Joe, her eyes wide. Joe wished he could give her reassurance, but he too was losing grip on the situation. "I think so. Let's South just stay close to each other." As they waited, the world outside blurred into a mix of shouts and hurried footsteps. Each sound seemed a little more frantic than the last, as if the hospital itself were a living creature, frustrated and anxious. After what felt like a lifetime, the nurse who had just entered the room returned, her face carrying a mixture of anxiety and care. "Maria," she started, her tone firm but compassionate. "We have to ask you to step back away from the hallway. There's been an incident, but we're on it. I promise you're in safe hands." "Is it serious?" Maria asked, her grip on Joe's hand tightening. "It's hard to say right now, but take a deep breath. I need you to focus." The nurse stepped closer, trying to create a buffer between the chaos and the patients. "We're managing it, but your mom, she needs you to stay calm." Maria nodded but felt her breath catch, the fear rising like bile as she felt the walls closing in. "What if I want to be with her? What if she needs me?" "I understand. I genuinely do," the nurse said softly, meeting her gaze. "But it's important you take care of yourself too. We're checking on her every moment. You're doing everything you can." For a brief moment, Maria closed her eyes, seeking a flicker of clarity among the turbulence. She thought of her mother, lying vulnerable and weak, but still fighting back in her own way. She drew strength from that thought, but it mingled with worry. Then the unmistakable sounds of shouts echoed, more urgent this time. The nurse flinched, her eyes darting toward the door, as if she too felt vulnerable against the unseen turmoil. "Maria, stay put. I'll be right back. I need to report this." The nurse's footsteps receded, pulling her into the unknown. "Please," Maria breathed out, tears brimming once more. Joe moved closer, wrapping an arm around her shoulder, trying to shield her from the disruption just outside their small bubble. "Whatever happens, you're strong. Remember that." But even as he said the words, he felt a gnawing anxiety. He didn't know how to shield her from the reality of a hospital on high alert or the potential disaster looming outside their room. They stood in silence, only the sound of the monitors and Maria's quickened breathing hanging in the air. Then, with a quick movement, Maria pulled away slightly, looking directly at Joe. "I can't just sit here. I have to find her. I have to be there for Mom." "Okay, I'll go with you," he replied resolutely, not wanting to let go of the fragile hope that held them together. They stepped toward the door, the world on the other side still a mystery. Just then, a figure rushed past the door. A doctor, face flushed and voice raised, barking orders. Their footsteps picked up pace as they moved toward the chaos. Maria's heart raced. "What is happening?" she breathed, her eyes darting nervously. "Let us find out," Joe said, gripping her hand tighter. But just as they pushed open the door to see the unfolding scene, a loud crash echoed down the hall. The sound reverberated in Maria's chest, stopping her in her tracks. "What was that?" she shouted, panic rising. Joe turned his head, understanding the threat was closer than they had imagined. The question loomed larger. Would they be able to protect the ones they loved? Would they have the strength to face whatever awaited them down this darkened corridor? Maria's heart pounded louder than the chaos outside. She felt like a paper boat tossed on a turbulent sea, unstable and fragile. Joe squeezed her hand tighter, anchoring her as they stood at the edge of the unknown. The hallway stretched before them, a scene painted with panic and fear. Shadows flickered in the overhead lights, and hurried figures weaved through the hospital like frantic bees. Each shout felt like ice pouring down her spine. What if something has happened to her? Maria's voice trembled, barely above a whisper. "We'll find her, we have to go," Joe urged, determination flaring in his eyes. He stepped ahead, pulling her along as they ventured into the corridor. The atmosphere around them shifted. Every step led them deeper into a maze of uncertainty, where the walls seemed to close in with every frightened breath. The rhythmic beeping of monitors faded into the background, consumed by the frantic sounds around them. They dodged nurses and doctors scurrying like soldiers on a battlefield, each face reflecting worry and adrenaline. Then they reached a junction where a red-lit sign warned of an emergency situation. Maria's breath hitched in her throat. "It leads to the ICU," she said, realizing they were about to cross into a zone where her mother might be. Minutes felt like hours as they pressed forward, holding on to hope like a lifeline. They turned another corner, and the scene before them hit with a force that knocked the air from Maria's lungs. A crowd of medical staff surrounded a room, their voices rigid with urgency. "What is going on in there?" she asked, panic rising in her chest. "Is it my mom?" A nurse, rushing past them, paused. She looked over her shoulder, her expression torn. "We're doing everything we can. Please wait." Her plate was full, but the calmness in her voice hardly stifled the chaos that spiraled in Maria's mind. Joe stood beside her, eyes scanning the doorway, and then shifting to Maria. "We can't just stand here suddenly." A loud crash erupted from the room, sending a ripple of gasps through the crowd. Maria's knees threatened to buckle beneath her. "Joe!" she screamed, fear stitching through her words. Without thinking, Joe pushed forward, grabbing Maria's wrist. "We have to go in," he insisted. The noise was overwhelming, but he wasn't about to let her dwindle under the weight of the moment. They moved closer, ears tuned to the chaos beyond the door, but just as they approached, the door swung open, revealing the frazzled doctor from before. His face was set in a grim expression as he passed them, offering no comfort. Maria's heart sank. "What is happening?" she shouted after him, desperation leaking from her voice. "Stay back, it's not safe," he barked, urgency fueling his words. Cognitive dissonance crept in as Maria felt frozen, caught between desire and fear. She couldn't lose herself in this hospital maze. She had to find her mother. She couldn't let that flicker of hope dim. Then, from behind the chaos, a familiar voice cut through like a beacon. "Maria?" Maria turned, her breath stuttering in disbelief. It was her mother's nurse, leading the way as she emerged from the whirlpool of activity. "We need to keep this area clear," she said, but her eyes softened upon seeing Maria. "Your mom is stable, but we need to get her to a different unit." "Where is she? Can I see her?" Maria rushed forward, a wildfire of anxiety feeding her every step. "She's just in the next room." "But we can't, I don't care. I have to see her." Maria's voice cracked. Joe tightened his grip on her shoulder, whispering, "You're not alone. Let us go." And just like that, all fear coiled into a single moment, determination. They pushed through the chaos together, Maria leading the charge, urgency fueling their every step. But what awaited them in that next room felt like the tipping point. Would their reunion spark a beacon, or would it turn darker? As they crossed the threshold, an emotional reckoning loomed heavy in the air, and the walls of fear began to tremble around them. The moment they stepped into the room, Maria's heart raced. The sterile smell of antiseptic filled the air, and the soft hum of machines created an eerie backdrop to what lay ahead. She spotted her mother lying on the bed, a tangle of wires and tubes surrounding her still form. Maria's breath hitched. The sight both relieved and terrified her. "Mom!" she cried, rushing to the bedside. Joe was right behind her, eyes wide, as if absorbing the stark reality of it all. Her mother's face was pale, but there was something peaceful about it too. Maria gently took her mother's hand, feeling the frailness in her grasp. "I'm here, Mom. I'm right here." Tears blurred her vision, but she quickly blinked them away, desperate to stay strong. Joe leaned against the wall, giving them a moment, his own heart heavy with concern. He felt like he was intruding on a sacred space, yet he didn't want to leave her side. Overwhelmed by instinct, he stepped closer, ready to support Maria however she needed. As Maria spoke soothingly to her mother, a nurse entered, clipboard in hand. "We're monitoring her, but she is stable for now. The doctor will be in shortly to discuss the next steps." Her tone was calm, yet it carried the weight of truth. "What next steps?" Joe asked, surprised by the sudden surge of protectiveness. "Is there anything more we can do? Right now, it's about keeping her comfortable. The treatment is ongoing, and we will do everything possible." Maria's gaze didn't leave her mother's face as a storm brewed inside her. "But what if she doesn't wake up?" The words slipped out, sharp and jagged. "Don't think like that," Joe interjected gently, reaching over to touch Maria's shoulder. "She is a fighter. You know that." Maria nodded, but doubt gnawed at her insides. She could feel the worry creeping in. The small moments they had shared danced in her mind. Laughter over dinner, rides to school, her mom's embrace felt in the middle of a storm. Their bond was golden, and the thought of losing it twisted her heart. The nurse quietly watched them, sensing the turmoil. "It's powerful, the love you both share. Use that strength." Her words hung in the air, thick with emotion, offering a glimmer of hope amidst the uncertainty. As the seconds passed, Maria found comfort in her mother's grip. It was soft, yet tangible, a reminder that she was still fighting, still with them. She squeezed her mother's hand tighter. "I love you, Mom. You're my hero. Please come back to us." Just then, the doctor entered, clipboard tucked firmly under his arm. His expression was serious, almost forbidding, and the room fell into silence. Every eye turned towards him, anticipation wrapping around them like a blanket. "Maria," he began, glancing at her mother, then back at her. "We need to have a serious conversation about her condition." Maria's heart raced again, anxiety pulsating through her veins. Joe took a deep breath, standing beside her, determined not to let her go through this alone. Was this the moment they had all been afraid of? Would it crack their fragile foundation, sending them spiraling into darkness? Or would it inspire them to search deeper for the hope they so desperately needed? As Maria's mind raced ahead, she grasped Joe's hand tighter. Whatever the doctor had to say, they were in this together. They had to find a way to light their way through the shadows. The doctor opened his mouth to speak again, but suddenly, the room door burst open. A man in a well-tailored suit stood in the doorway, breathless, eyes wide. "I came as soon as I heard." Suddenly, all attention shifted. Who was he? What role did he have in this heartbreak? In that moment, Maria's heart thumped louder than ever. What could he possibly bring to the table that would alter the course of the evening? Would he be a source of salvation or more chaos? The man in the suit stepped into the room, capturing everyone's attention. His face was flushed, and his eyes darted around, taking in the atmosphere thick with anxiety and despair. He looked like he belonged to a different world, one where the noises of machines and the scent of antiseptic were distant memories. "I'm sorry for barging in like this," he stammered, swallowing hard as he gazed at Maria and Joe. I just had to come." Maria's grip on her mother tightened. Who was this man? She felt a mixture of curiosity and hostility at his intrusion. "Who are you?" she demanded, her voice trembling with confusion. That he shifted his weight, taking a deep breath. "I'm Robert," he said finally, his voice steadier now. I'm a family friend. Your mom and I worked together years ago. I heard about what happened. Is she why are you here?" Maria interrupted, her brows knitting together in frustration. "What do you know about my mom?" Joe cast a sideways glance at Maria, his own questions echoing in his mind. "You might want to just tell us what you want," he said, trying to maintain his protective stance. Robert's gaze dropped to the floor. "I owe her a lot. She helped me when I was at my lowest, taught me that compassion is worth more than money." He paused, visibly struggling with his emotions. "I want to help now if I can." "Help? How can you help?" Maria asked, her voice softer now but still laced with anger. "You don't even know her." "I've been following her story," he replied, raising his eyes to Maria's. "I've had my team looking into her medical needs. I want to make sure she gets the best treatment possible." His words hung in the air, tinged with an undercurrent of urgency. For a brief second, Maria hesitated, wrestling with the notion that maybe he could provide some form of assistance. But skepticism flooded back quickly. Why should I trust you? Because your mom trusted me once. And I wouldn't be here otherwise, Robert answered, desperation creeping into his tone. Before Maria could respond, the doctor cleared his throat, drawing their eyes. If I may interject, we need to focus. We're still waiting to discuss your mother's situation. The tension crackled between them as emotions ran high. Maria felt a rush of protectiveness for her mother, but she also felt a flicker of hope at the thought of help. Look, I know this is hard, Robert said, edging closer. But your mother was a beacon to so many. She deserves a fighting chance. I can bring in specialists, provide support, stay away from her. Maria exploded, heart pounding. You don't get to just walk in here and offer help. You don't know us. You don't understand what we're going through. Joe stepped forward, placing a firm hand on Maria's shoulder. Let us take a minute, Maria. Breathe. We need to think clearly. Robert retreated slightly, hands raised in surrender. I understand, but time is critical. Please, allow me to assist. You might not want to admit it, but your mom's condition requires urgency. You can't fight this battle alone. Maria's throat tightened as confusion battled with desperation. She clasped her mother's hand tighter, breath hitching. She remembered all the moments they shared. Family vacations, bedtime stories, celebrations. How could she make this choice? Joe's steady presence gave her something to lean on. What do you think? He asked softly, his gaze darting from her to Robert. Before she could respond, the monitors beeped, interrupting the thick tension. A sudden movement caught Maria's eye. Her mother's fingers twitched ever so slightly. Mom. Maria gasped, heart leaping in her chest. Mom, can you hear me? As if responding to her voice, her mother's eyes fluttered open. The room fell silent again, each person frozen in the moment. Maria? Her mother whispered, voice so fragile, yet so familiar. Is that you? Tears streamed down Maria's face as relief washed over her. But the weight of Robert's presence still lingered. Was this the turning point they needed, or an invitation for more complications? Mom, we're right here, she breathed, aching for her mother to pull through. But could they truly trust someone from the past with their fragile future hanging in the balance? Now, with a fragile hope ignited, Maria braced herself for whatever came next. Her world felt both brighter and more uncertain than ever. Would Robert prove to be their much-needed ally, or merely a reminder of a life that could now slip away? Maria felt her heart race as her mother's eyes slowly focused on her. Mom, please, she whispered, tears mixing with a smile that barely held the weight of her worry. You're going to be okay. We're here. But her mother's gaze shifted, landing on Robert, who stood awkwardly at the edge of the bed. The tension filled the room like a balloon about to pop. The silence weighed down by unspoken questions and fears. Who asked this? Her mother croaked, struggling to sit up. Mom, it's Maria began, but Robert stepped forward, his voice gentle yet assertive. I'm Robert, he said, allowing an uncomfortable moment of eye contact with her mother. I'm a friend, a longtime friend. I'm here to help. The fragility of her mother's condition felt even more pronounced as Maria observed her weariness. Do you even know what is wrong with her? Maria shot back, unable to keep her protective instinct in check. I've been informed, he replied, the tone of his voice steady against the emotional tides swirling around them. And I want to ensure she receives the best care possible. Does that involve throwing money at the problem? Maria snapped, frustration boiling over. No, Maria, he said, a hint of urgency in his voice now. It's about bringing in the right people. I can connect you with the top doctors, specialists who have dealt with this kind of illness. You shouldn't have to navigate all of this alone. Her mother interjected weakly, Maria, just listen to him. The plea tugged at Maria's heart, pulling her in two opposing directions. She wanted to reject Robert, to kick him out, to protect her mother from anyone who could bring more hurt into their lives. But the desperation in Robert's eyes, mixed with the unconditional love from her mother, made it hard to ignore what he was saying. Why should we trust you? Maria pressed, her throat tightening as she felt her resolve waning. Trust is earned, Robert said, his voice softened by sincerity. But I promise you, I'm here because I believe in your mom. She saved me, and now it's my turn to help. The flicker of hope in her mother's eyes was undeniable, even as doubts and fear pulled at Maria's insides. She remembered nights spent comforting her mom, laughing through tears, the memories weaving a bond she wasn't ready to jeopardize. Yet the reality of the hospital room confronted her with bitter clarity. Time was slipping through their fingers like sand. "Okay," she whispered, feeling the gravity of that simple word weigh heavily on her. "Let us hear what you can do." Robert's face relaxed slightly, a flicker of gratitude overtaking his anxious demeanor. "Thank you. I'll get to work immediately." Suddenly, her mother gripped Maria's hand tighter, grasping onto her daughter's strength. "I trust you," she said softly, her voice a tender melody amid the chaos. Mom Maria's heart twisted at the responsibility bestowed upon her. Before she could voice her concerns, a rush of commotion spilled into the room as the doctor entered, clipboard in hand. "We need to discuss the next steps in her treatment," he announced, focusing on the immediate medical concerns that the doctor began speaking about tests and medication. Maria felt a whirlwind of emotions, anger, frustration, but also a thread of hope weaving through all of it. She glanced at Robert and saw the determination in his eyes, signaling a willingness to fight for her mother. "Look," said Robert, as he leaned slightly closer, eyes intent on her. "I know it's scary, but I will be with you every step of the way. Together, we can fight this." Maria nodded hesitantly at Robert, feeling the weight of the moment hang like a fragile equilibrium. Would trusting him be their saving grace or another mistake weighing heavy on their hearts? As conversations of treatment options continued, an unexpected thought struck her. What if trusting Robert was the step they needed to reclaim not just her mother's health, but their own hope? And just like that, uncertainty wove its way back into her heart. As the room filled with medical jargon, she clung to the flicker of light. She felt the feeling that perhaps, just perhaps, they could emerge from this darkness. But was she ready to let someone new into their lives at such a precarious time? And if she did, how much of what she had held on to would she have to let go? As those questions played in her mind, a new urgency pulsed through her. They were on the precipice of something monumental. What miracle was hiding just around the corner? Joe stood just inside the room, feeling the tension coiling among them all like a live wire. His heart was heavy with uncertainty, but there was also a flicker of hope, a flame ignited by Maria's fierce love for her mother and the newfound ally in Robert. As the doctor explained the treatment options, Joe's gaze never strayed far from Maria, watching her process each word, her delicate features illuminated by the overhead light. "Maria," the doctor said gently, "these treatments take time, but your mother's condition can improve. It hinges on timely intervention." There was a comfort in the doctor's demeanor, yet Maria still felt the weight of fear on her shoulders, pressing down heavier than ever. Maria squeezed her mother's hand tighter, summoning every ounce of courage. "We'll do whatever it takes, right, Mom?" The silent bond of trust between them sparked something within Joe. This was bigger than them. It was a fight for love, for family, for hope. "Absolutely, sweetheart," her mother managed to say, offering a weak but uplifting smile. That small expression sent a shot of warmth through them all, even Robert. "Then I'm in," Robert said, urgency lining his voice. "I'll arrange for the specialists as soon as we're able. Getting the right team in place can make all the difference." An uneasy silence followed, Maria torn between gratitude and skepticism. "And what guarantee do we have that you won't just leave us to fend for ourselves again?" She shot back, her brow furrowing. "Because I won't. I swear on everything that mattered to your mom and me before," he pleaded, his sincerity palpable, suffusing the room. "I need you to trust me, to focus on your mother healing. That is step one. We'll manage the rest together." Maria took a deep breath, the fire burning in her gut wresting control from the fear. She caught a glimpse of her mother's frail hand, the lines of life mapped in her palm. "Okay, let us do it," she said softly, the weight of her words pressing against the air. "Let us fight for her." As they all gathered around her mother's side, the doctor began outlining the next steps again. Joe felt a sense of clarity wash over him. This was confrontation and connection at once. A chance to commit to something true and valuable like Maria's love and her mother's fight. He stepped forward, ready to face any obstacles ahead. Days turned to nights as Robert fulfilled his promise. Each morning bled into the next. Nurses shuffled in and out. Specialists brought in fresh perspectives, and newfound energy surged through the hospital. With every passing interaction, Maria became more of a vigilant advocate, speaking for her mother, making choices that flourished hope. Slowly, her mother began to respond. The doctors monitored her progress carefully, and Maria stood firm, navigating the tumultuous waters with unwavering strength. Joe remained beside her, offering what support he could: coffee runs, listening to her frets, promising she wouldn't face anything alone. Their bond tightened, blossoming into uncharted territory, built on compassion forged through struggle. One morning, as sunlight spilled through the window, a breakthrough moment arrived. Joe sat across from Maria, watching as her mother opened her eyes wider and began to speak clearly. "Maria, my brave girl," she whispered, words struggling free, yet brimming with love. Maria's joy exploded, cascading over her with light. "It's okay, Mom. I'm here," she cried out, tears of joy streaming down her cheeks. "You're going to be okay. You have so much love around you." Joe stepped back, feeling the pinch of emotion. He witnessed the transformation. Both Maria and her mother had become such a powerful testament of tenacity rising from heartbreak. Robert, standing at the door, beamed with a glimmer of pride, satisfaction reflecting in his eyes. Weeks later, as spring bloomed outside the hospital's sterile confines, Maria's mother was cleared to go home. The day felt electric, suffused with a sense of victory, each one of them a warrior in a different way, battling the trials they faced. As they prepared for the discharge, Maria turned to Joe, gratitude pouring from her heart. "Thank you for sticking by me through all of this. I still can't believe she's coming home." "I didn't go anywhere," he smiled, his own heart filled with unspoken words. They forged something incredible, a new beginning crafted from the ashes of fear and uncertainty. As they stepped into the sunshine, the hospital fading away behind them, Maria looked up at Joe. "And I couldn't have done this without you. I'm still scared, but it feels different now. Like I can actually breathe. Together, we'll face anything this world throws our way," he reassured her, their hands entwined. In that moment, Robert approached, the three of them standing together. "You've all accomplished something extraordinary," he said simply. "What was started here, this bond will only grow stronger." With determination in her eyes, Maria nodded. "We've got so much ahead of us. Let us build on this." The world now felt vast and full of light. They had weathered the storm, learning the resilience that comes from love, community, and trust. Each heartbeat a reminder that hope, once ignited, can burn fiercely bright. And deeper than all of that, Joe realized that he had finally stepped away from the gilded life he had known, embracing the warmth of connections that brought him to life, a life that fulfilled his heart in ways he'd never imagined. In the shimmering afternoon sun, with laughter beginning to break free, they walked on together, arms intertwined, ready to chart their future, one filled with courage, compassion, and a powerful sense of belonging. Now, don't wait not even one more second to share this video. You need to share it with at least 5 friends who need to see this transformation. This is the moment to show your support. Hit that subscribe button immediately to not miss the next exclusive stories. Leave a like now to feed the algorithm, and comment below with your reactions and feelings about this emotional ending. Your support means everything.